Hi everybody, today is a summary of the lesson that we had on Friday, August 23rd. As the kids were walking in today, I wanted them to write down their homework assignment because we do have one today. And so I need you to make sure that you are aware that you have a homework assignment. There's some of you that can finish it and some of you that can't because it has to do with the lab that we've been working on. So I'll talk about that a little bit more in a second. They used their lab impulse packets. They needed a pen or a pencil, and they needed a highlighter. So the first thing I want to talk to you about is in Schoology today, you're going to see a PDF of this document. It's called Lab Impulses Analysis, and this is the homework assignment. I used to have labs with my kids, and after every lab, the kids were engaged, they were having a good time, they were really understanding the concepts as we were doing them. Great, beautiful. And then the next day I would say something like, okay, we did that yesterday, we were talking about the lab, let's review that. Yep, great job, let's move on, here's some more notes. And then maybe a couple days later we'd have another lab, and it seemed like they were really understanding the science concepts that we were talking about as we were working through the lab. But then what was happening is I would get to the tests, and kids would be taking their test, and they'd come up to my desk and say, I don't really understand this question, like I don't get it. And I could say something like, well, do you remember that lab we did last week with the sand trays? Just pulling something out of my head. And you remember the sand trays? Yeah. Okay, so talk to me about that. What did we do? And they would explain it to me. And I would say, okay, what were we trying to demonstrate? What concepts were we trying to understand? And they could explain that to me. And I say, okay, now thinking about that lab, can you apply what you know about the science concepts in that lab, apply that now to the question on your test? And they would be like, oh yeah, I got it. So I realized as a teacher I was missing one really important step, and that was like some kind of an exit ticket from a lab. When you get older, in the older classes in high school, and you may be writing a lab report, and basically all that is the same kind of questions, like what did you do and why did you do it? I need you all to be able to make the connection between what we've been working on the last 2 days in a lab and why we're doing it. I reminded the kids that we had a objective for the last 3 days. Our objective was you will demonstrate your understanding of stimulus, response, and impulse as you answer the questions. During class, every day before class, I'd say, okay guys, we're going to finish our lab, or we're going to work on our lab today. Let's take a look at our objective. By the time you're done with this lab, you will be able to explain stimulus, response, and impulse. So this is where that takes place. You are going to explain your understanding of stimulus, response, and impulse as you answer the questions. You may use your lab packet. You may not use your notes. I do not want to read the definition of stimulus, response, and impulse, because that's not what we're doing here. What I'm trying to get you to do is think about the examples that we had in lab, think about the actual activity of the lab, and then try and pull out what you understand about stimulus and response and impulse based on what we did. This is independent work. It's due today on Friday, but obviously since you guys are gone, our class policy or our school policy is if I assign homework on a day that you are gone, and it's not something that was a like I told you that you're going to have this and it's going to be due. So none of you knew that I was going to assign this. You have 2 days to get this done. So for everybody else, it's due on Friday. For you guys, the day you come back, you'll have an extra day to get it done. Okay? Take a look at that worksheet. And if you need to pause the video so that you can copy that into GoodNotes so that you can work on it, then do that. All right, so in the directions it says, in science, we conduct investigations to model the science concepts we're learning about. At the end of the lab, you should be able to explain what we did and why we did it. So take a minute here, pause. If you are a person that has been gone and you have not conducted this lab at all, then you absolutely cannot answer this until you get that lab finished. So just put a pin in it, come see me on Monday when you come back, or as soon as you come back, and then we'll make a plan for you to get caught up. If you were here for both days of the lab, then you can finish this worksheet. You can do it. If you were here on the first day of the lab and you only worked through the first step, do what you can, meaning you're going to answer questions number 1, number 2, and number 3. Number 4 is talking about the second lab that we completed on Thursday. If you were absent on Thursday, you're just going to not answer that question, but then you can still answer question number 5. All right? Here's what I need you to do. Use complete sentences. I'm reading the last part of the directions. Use complete sentences and include the terms stimulus, response, and impulse at least one time. I want you to use these words in a sentence so that I understand that you know what it means. Okay? Specifically, question number 2 would be a great place for you to highlight the word stimulus and highlight the word response, because then I will know if you understand it. Let's see. Question number 1 is just saying in your own words, summarize what this 2-day lab was about. Summarize. I want it really general. I want to know what we were doing, why we were doing it. Not a specific, like step 1, step 2, step 3. What did we do? General. And then why did we do it? Question number 2 says in the first step, which is step number 1, that's on the front page of your lab worksheet, what was the stimulus and what was the response? Please remember to answer these questions in complete sentences. Question number 3 says draw a picture of how we measured the distance in step 2. So in step 2 of the lab, you're going to look on your lab sheet, and we had a data chart. There were 3 different measurements that you guys obtained. I want to know, how did you get those measurements? Like physically, what did you have to do to get those measurements? There's 2 reasons for this question. Number 1, Nebraska State Standards tells us that you, by the end of 7th grade, you all need to know how to use models, student-generated models, so models that you make to help explain what you understand about a concept. So a model can be a picture, it can be a diagram, it can be a 3-dimensional model, like whatever. There's lots of different things that a model can be. What I'm asking you to do is draw a picture showing me how you measured the distance in the second step. So if you look on your data chart, there are 3 boxes. There's verbal explanations in each one of those boxes. Measure from this to this, measure from here to here. That's not what I'm talking about. I don't want any words for number 3. Number 3 should only be a picture. And I'm going to suggest, look at the parentheses there. You can use stick figures, different colors, arrows. But if you were, and this is the second reason why I want to have you fill this out or do this drawing. As you guys were working through the lab, you would ask me, or I could hear you talking to each other, and you would say, okay, wait, what are we supposed to do? What are we supposed to measure? And you would read it, and then you'd be like, wait, what? What are we doing? So a lot of times in science, in addition to the text, there's some kind of a graphic or a picture or something that helps explain the text. And that's what I want you to do. Draw a picture that could go in my lab worksheet to help people understand the directions. Question number 4, how did we model the time it takes an impulse to travel from one point to another? So if you remember, if you were not here on Thursday, skip this question. Those of you who were here yesterday but you're gone on Friday, we were standing in a circle. We held hands. Explain that step by step. What did we do first? What did we do second? The point of that is if somebody wanted to come back and replicate this lab, could they do it? So you have to tell us exactly, what do we do? And then number 5 is just after completing this lab, what is one thing that you learned? Okay, once you're finished with that, go ahead and submit that to Schoology. The name of the assignment is Lab Impulses Analysis. All right, see you Monday.